Town Council meeting to order. If you'll join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We'll start with the approval of the minutes of the March 9th, 2021 meeting. Anybody got any changes or any corrections to the minutes? All right. I'll go ahead and submit the minutes for approval, just with the notation that I was kind of absent that meeting. Report of the town manager, Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Mayor Black, members of council. I wanted to begin, and I'm sure I won't be the last person to mention this, by extending condolences to the Black family and noting the passing of Charles Rodney Zach Black, who was a very prominent and beloved member of our community. Continue to keep you in our prayers for comfort and peace, and certainly give thanks for a life well lived.
Thank you.
Back to administrative matters, I wanted to report publicly that Waukesha has exercised their option under our performance agreement and are now in ownership of the former middle school property. Spoke with Mr. McCormick last week on Friday, and he's optimistic that we will see great progress and still a target date of spring of 2022 for some things actually opening up the hill from us. I know you'll cover this momentarily, but staff is asking for an addition to the agenda tonight. I think you received a resolution regarding changes to our Section 125 Flexible Benefits Plan. And if it pleases council, I would request that you add that as another item of new business. And that concludes my report, but I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Warner? All right. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, do we have any appearances before council? No. Okay. Council comments, CJ, we'll start on this stuff.
I just want to kind of follow up on what Bart just said. My condolences to you and the passing of your dad. I mean, he was a great man, involved in a lot of things, and I think back, he was always involved in sports, rec sports, and during my years of helping the city of Bedford in the rec department, he was always there to help me out and at times give me a little guidance on when he thought I was straying the course. But he was a great man.
Thank you, CJ.
Yeah, agree with that. Great public servant. Funeral, learned a lot more about it. Should be proud.
Thank you.
Same, Dwayne. I just want to tell you, condolences for your father passing. He was a great teacher, principal, and stuff like that over the years. He was involved in a lot of stuff in the town, around the surrounding areas, so the town really lost a great benefit in it.
Appreciate that.
I'm going to echo the same thing, because I love Zach, and always his attitude. He always had a smile on his face and a greeting for everybody. He didn't discriminate against anybody. He just loved people, and I know y'all are going to miss him. So that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Tim, I'm sorry for your loss. Losing a loved one is never easy. I know you make your dad proud every day, and I would like to request that we take a moment of silence for Zach Black.
Thank you. Appreciate all the kind words, appreciate all the calls and concern and love and support you've shown our family and myself during my father's illness and passing. Appreciate the flowers the town and the fire department sent. I appreciate, seeing and talking to all of you and hearing stories about my father. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. A couple things real quick. I've got, just let everyone know, got 3 thank you notes. The Wharton Memorial Foundation, Bedford Ride, and the Bedford Area Educational Foundation, just thanking us for their grants, the awarding their grants, and I'll put those in the record, excuse me. And the last, we have a group here tonight that we want to recognize that's here in support of autism awareness. And I have a proclamation that I would like to read. Whereas autism spectrum disorder, autism, a complex neurological and developmental disability, they typically appears during early childhood and can impact a person's social skills, communication, relationships, and self-regulation. And whereas there's no known single cause of autism, and it affects all racial and socio-economic groups, there's currently no medical detection for autism. And whereas the characteristics associated with autism can lead to victimization, bullying, wandering, and eloping, and whereas autism is an urgent public health crisis that demands support from their community and all levels of government, the symptoms and characteristics of autism vary and may present themselves differently in each individual. And whereas autism affects an individual's ability to learn, create, and maintain relationships, develop healthy and appropriate interactive behaviors, and interpret and understand verbal and nonverbal communication. In 2020, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that 1 in 54 school-aged children have been identified with autism spectrum disorder. And whereas the town of Bedford and Bedford County are committed to ensuring that people living with autism have access to lifelong care and services needed to pursue their full potential and happiness. And whereas the town of Bedford and Bedford County are committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and welcoming community to all citizens, including people with autism. And whereas the town of Bedford and Bedford County is honored to take part in the annual observance of Autism Acceptance Month and World Autism Day, in the hope that it will lead to a better understanding of the disorder. Now therefore, I, Mayor Tim Black, do hereby recognize April 2021 as Autism Acceptance Month and April 2nd, 2021 as World Autism Acceptance Day in the town of Bedford, and I call this observance to the attention of all citizens. And witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Bedford to be affixed this 17th day of March 2021. I appreciate Chief Foreman for helping to bring this proclamation to my attention. And once again, we honor you all for being here tonight, and hope that our citizens will understand a little more about what autism is about, and being a little more understanding and accepting. So thank you all for coming. At this time, we've got, let's see, report of council committees. I don't believe there have been any committee meetings since we last met. Revisions to agenda, so we will add under new business the item in regard to the Section 125 Flexible Benefits Plan. And then are there any other additions or revisions to the agenda?
I am going to move that we go eventually into closed session to discuss personnel procurement procedures, and falls under the, I think, personnel and legal matters. But we also do have one individual who just signed up to speak as far as appearance before council.
Okay, all right.
So I just wanted, you went past it, so.
I'm sorry.
I can't because it was, it's the county, it's not the town.
Okay,
Chief Foreman.
Okay.
Warned me that's the county.
I just wanted to make sure you,
So I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have to come
We like county residents.
You're more welcome. Yeah, you're more than welcome if you would like.
we're in the county too.
Well, I mean, all it basically is basically, I live down on that, where they built the new park.
If you come up and just go ahead and give your name and your address for the record, just if you don't mind.
Troy Brawler,
Okay.
1560 Creekville Mill Road, Bedford, Virginia.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you slow that down for me? Give me your- Troy?
Troy Brawley, BRAWLEY,
Okay, and the address again?
1560
Uh-huh.
People, FUQUA, Mill Road, and that's Bedford. Basically, this is
Thank
where
you.
they put the new park at, which is over where Walmart is, and you make the left and go back, I think it's Van Horse Drive.
Yes. Okay.
My mom, a lot of us family, Brawleys live down that road. A lot of people that's lived down there has been down there 20 years. When they put the park down there, you just got that one entrance. Well, what we didn't know was they were gonna start having tournaments down there. So if you knew you were gonna have tournaments, you gotta have somewhere for people to park. So now people parking all up at my mom in front of her house, on the side, wherever they can find a parking space. Of course, you got more traffic going up and down the road too. My understanding is, from what we heard, was that they could not finance for the road to come off 460 because it costs too much money. Now, of course, you're aware that I'm one of the people that got annexed when we went down to a town. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm paying $400 and some extra dollars amongst other people that are, and where is it going? You know, that's my question. You know, what, and then I guess the other question is, why would we buy a park when we got, I know the one on Greenfield, I know that one ain't used as nearly as much. So why did we do this? Why did we think that we needed that? You know, why did we spend money on that land like that? Why? We just don't understand. Now, my brother where he lives, they got to come right back through there where they play Frisbee golf. So they come right at the back of his property. So he has no more privacy. So basically, you got the parking, then you got the privacy issue, and the road, the travel. The road's not wide enough for all the traffic. It's just not. I mean, I don't know if anyone in the county, any of you guys have been down there, but that is not, it's not made for that, you know. And like I said, the people that's down there, we all know each other. We've been there now over 20 years. I'm 40 years old. We've probably been there. I was living there when I was 6. So, you know, it goes way back. You know, it means a lot to the community. And we just would like something to be done. We don't know what can, but like I said, my main thing is paying more. What did we do that for? You know, I mean, I just don't understand why we spend money on something that we really, in my opinion, not that you didn't need it, but you could have did it elsewhere. You could have did it right there in Greenfield, which you already had, or even the rec field. I mean, I don't even know what you use that for anymore. The last time I went over there, it was a big pound of dirt. You know, I mean, I don't know, I ain't been to the meetings, but I'm just curious what's going on.
Okay, like I said, you know, both of those are county properties, so,
Okay.
you know, I appreciate it. We'll kind of, as we're talking amongst the two, you know, the two bodies at times, or, you know, Todd's talking to, you know, if there's a parking issue, traffic issue, Todd can certainly relay that on to Sheriff Miller, you know, and Bart can probably relay that on to the county administrator, some of those issues when they're talking, and, you know, and appreciate you coming to, you know.
The main thing that they did do that is great on that, at least you locking the gate at 8 o'clock.
Right.
So that way you don't have people down there after 8 going through there. I mean, that was a great deal.
Okay.
I mean, it ain't that we man the park, it's just you don't have the room for people. You don't have no privacy at all, and you don't have the room for people to park down there in the traffic, okay?
And I would certainly recommend you go and give the same comments to
Okay.
the Board of Supervisors so that they're aware of the issue as well.
All right.
But appreciate it, Mr. Brawley, for
All right,
letting
thank
us know
you.
about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that was just when the time comes, I'll make the motion, but that's fine, what I'm adding.
Okay, all right, so we got two items to the agenda, the flexible benefits and then a closed session just to talk about personnel procurement, legal. So I don't know which one might be the best code section. We can discuss that when we get.
Oh, you can do both.
Okay, all right, when we get to that. Right now, I just need a motion to add those two items to the agenda. Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so the consent agenda, the first item is the appointment of members to the local Board of Building Code Appeals.
Yes, Mayor Black, members of council, the terms of 3 members of the local Board of Building Code Appeals expire on April 20th, 2021. 2 of the current members have agreed to continue to serve on the board for an additional term, and there is 1 vacant position. For that vacant position, Mr. Jeffrey Witt has expressed an interest in seeking appointments. Mr. Witt's qualifications as a contractor with master certifications in multiple trades meet the state requirement that members represent different occupational or professional fields relating to the construction industry. Tonight, we are requesting that you appoint local Board of Building Code Appeals members as follows. Jonathan Buttram, reappointment for a 2-year term to expire April 20, 2023. Wesley Crowder, reappointment for a 2-year term to expire April 20th, 2023. And Jeffrey Witt, appointment for a 2-year term to expire April 20th, 2023.
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Any discussion? Does everybody know these individuals? Obviously, Jonathan's an engineer. Wes Crowder was a longtime residential contractor here in town. Jeff Witt,
Yeah.
Witt Mechanical,
Right.
HVAC, plumbing, mechanical. Okay. Just want to make sure everybody knew kind of who they were and what they're, okay. All right. Go ahead and
Roll
roll
call.
call vote.
Mr. Haley? Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 6 ayes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the presentation from, in concerning the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan update. And we'll introduce Mr. Zirkles, who can introduce us to this topic.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm Mary Circle, Director of Planning and Community Development. And tonight you have a presentation that's going to be conducted by Kelly Hitchcock of the Central Virginia Planning District Commission. She'll be joining us remotely from Lynchburg. It's that time, let me put it that way, it's that time of year or through the time when we need to update the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. The 2020 update has been prepared as the region by the Central Virginia Planning District Commission with help with consultants who do this and have done this in the past. In your packet, there was the executive summary. Hopefully you had a chance to look over that, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to go out and read the whole document. It is comprehensive and all-inclusive, all the localities in the region, and this same presentation has been presented to all the others as well. So you're all hearing the same thing, although the plan is tailored to each of our different jurisdictions related to our assets and our things that we need to be mindful of in planning for mitigation. It is a comprehensive document, and I'm going to let Kelly speak to that here, hoping our technology works. She has a brief presentation to give you an overview of the purpose and the content of it, and then ultimately we'd ask for a resolution adopting this plan, because it is a requirement for us to then to be able to ask for funds from FEMA in the event of a hazard that has happened. So I'll let Kelly give us an overview of that. And Kelly, are you with us?
I am. I hope you can hear me.
Is it, Mary, would it be easier if we go down here instead if you want? Or if you can see, I don't have eyes in the back of my head.
Well, so firstly, let me just thank you, and I will apologize for not being there this season. I wasn't feeling 100%, and so I appreciate you accommodating me. But I guess we're all used to virtual, so kind of nothing new here. But so I'll let us start. Mary, next slide. I'm just going to quickly, again, this evening, just go over with you, what project background, the hazard mitigation, the website, the mitigation actions, which is really the meat of the document from a locality perspective, and then that adoption process. Again, as Mary said, it's the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan and hazard mitigation plans in general. It is obviously it's that idea on how can you make those decisions to mitigate the impact of natural hazards. You can't stop tornadoes and those type of things, but the idea is what are the things you can do ahead to help kind of protect those investments that you have. And certainly from FEMA's perspective, in order to be able to access and eligibility to these FEMA dollars, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Fund, the Pre-Disaster Mitigation Program, which is now the BRIC program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, you have to have this hazard mitigation plan, and it has to be developed according to FEMA requirements. This is quickly just talking about the process. Again, we had a very comprehensive public outreach process. You act in the access of risk and the data development, the coordination with localities, stakeholders, and then sort of where we are today, and then the adoption process. Again, we had a comprehensive stakeholder process. All the local government councils were represented, each locality, and for the town of Bedford, Mary and Chief Creasy served on that technical advisory committee. We're sort of in all those meetings, but we had a meeting that included a partnership with Bedford County, where we had representation from the school system, from police, from public safety, from all of the stakeholders to help look at what the needs are. And again, we had a public process, and all the localities put information on your website and that sort of thing. We had 2 public meetings, one in December of 2019, and then a second public meeting in June 25th of 2020. And then we actually went above FEMA requirement, and we had an additional comment process, which I'll talk about again. We just felt like in COVID that was prudent. And then this slide really talks about, what is the hazard mitigation plan? It's looking at those natural hazards, looking at the community asset, and then, looking for that sweet spot that kind of looks at that risk analysis. The document is 7 chapters, along with the addendum. Again, it's a large document. And, chapters 1, 2, and 3 are pretty standard, right? There's an introduction, who we are, the community profile. 3 is the planning process. And so chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7 are really the meat of the document. Chapter 4 is that very intensive hazard information and risk assessment, the detailed data that the consultants that we have, Virginia Tech Center for Information Technology, and then their sub-consultants, Service Incorporated. And again, that is of a 800 and some odd page document, it's probably a third. And then we have a 5th chapter that talks about your capabilities assessment. It's kind of what is each locality's ability to do things, as far as what is their planning process, what is are their capabilities from a staff level, because again, what a small locality's staff capabilities may be as compared to a larger locality, you have to make sure you establish strategies that make sense. And then obviously chapter 6 is those mitigation strategies. And then chapter 7 is the monitoring and maintenance of this plan. And in full disclosure, that really was an area that there was a lot of room for improvement from our last hazard mitigation plan, which FEMA was none too not willing to say that we needed to do better. We had, localities, you're doing a lot of really good things, but we weren't keeping up with a record of those policies and programs that were benefiting. And so that is something that we really have developed a very integrated and committed process of parenting this process moving forward. Next slide. And what you see here is the hazard mitigation plan has a very comprehensive website. Again, it is a large document, and so this website really allows anyone to take a deep dive and to really go directly what you're interested in looking at. This is what you see on the home page. Next slide. And so you click, and you'll come here to the hazard. And this is what you'll see if you click. You went to the mitigation page, to the hazard page, and you'll see this level of detail for each of the 20 hazards that are represented in the hazard mitigation plan. And so on that left side of the screen, you can get a description of the hazard, you can get location and content, you can get very detailed analysis and the data that was developed with each chapter. And then down in the resources, we'll kind of talk about this. You have a hazard relationship, and then the map section. Again, each interactive and capable within each of the 20 hazards. So you would see this. Next slide. And I quickly want to show you, this is the hazard interrelationship. And this is something that really was the brainchild of Virginia Tech CGIC, and we actually just did a presentation on Region 3 FEMA about this, and FEMA is actually considering our regional hazard mitigation plan as having a best practice. And it's showing that interrelationship. And what you see there is the idea is that those solid lines are those precursors. If you're going to have flooding, you have flooding because you've had one of those other hazards, right? You've had a thunderstorm or those types of things. And then that dashed line are those hazards that could happen as a result of that larger hazard. So it's used to really show that interconnectivity. And again, we did a presentation, and so again, FEMA wants this to be used in hazard mitigation plans moving forward. So that's kind of a kudos. So next slide. And this is, we want to really show this. It's a dashboard that was created and is unique to every locality. And as I mentioned to you, the last hazard mitigation plan, we really didn't do a good job of taking a baseline on, how many flooding events took place, how many insurance policies, how much was the financial investment from a locality, or how was that impacted. So this dashboard has been created, and this is from the flood chapter. And so we'll use this as a maintenance and again, a baseline methodology to see how we're doing on this 5-year plan and keeping up with strategies moving forward. Next slide. And again, it's a large document, and so what you see here is in the flooding chapter, you see a map of vulnerable structures, and that's wonderful, but it's a map on a piece of paper, and we all know that's hard to see. So next slide. And that's where the interactive side of that hazard mitigation website is really going to be beneficial to everyone as far as being able to visualize the information that's within the document, but also maintaining how things have changed over time. So what you see here is that's what you see if you went to the map, the interactive map that you click, that you can see this on each of the hazards. Kind of next slide, Mary. And then you see the close-up. And so what you see there, you can toggle in and you can see very specific information of resources that are within the flood zone, within each locality, and then it allows you to sort of maintain that information, and then we use this very detailed information to inform the strategies that we'll present later in the document. Next slide. And so then we have Chapter 5, that's your capabilities assessment. Again, each locality, we looked at the planning, what are the policies, the programs that are in place, what are the legal capabilities, what are the administrative capabilities, the fiscal elements within each locality, and what is the technical expertise that exists within that locality. And then I know that's very small to see there, but it's to show you that we went through, and this breakdown is a FEMA spreadsheet, and everything that you see there was developed through a very integrated discussion with your staff. And again, what's the capabilities that you have, and then this, again, was used to inform those strategies. And then we get to that, again, the meat of the document, like the mitigation strategies. And they are those actions that can be taken to mitigate, not to stop, but to mitigate. And they break down into these 5 categories: information and outreach. And again, they sort of the low-hanging, less expensive things that you're already doing. You already have amazing staff that gives information to citizens. But what we want to make sure is that the information about best practices for preparing yourself during hurricane season, or what you want to have if for before an ice storm is coming. We want to make sure that information is the same if you're in Appomattox as you are in Bedford. Prevention capacity, those are those programmatic activities, property protection, generators, that type of thing. Then you get into the structural projects and the national system resiliency, and those tend to be the large dollar projects where you need engineering, multiple years, multiple funding. And then I want you to see, this is what, next slide, I'm sorry, pardon me. And this is just so you can see back on the website, when you click at the top of the tab and you hit mitigation, you will come to this mitigation page on the website. Next slide. And then you're able to see each locality, each jurisdiction, you can toggle over it and you get those individual strategies that each locality has. Next slide. And then here we are at the town mitigation strategies. The town identified 15 strategies. The Bedford County identified 26 strategies. And what's really important about these strategies, and
We lose her.
Kelly, we lost your audio. Just go on looking at our strategy. Kelly, can you hear us? Let her catch back up to us. So she mentioned that we have a number, they are specific to our community. Zoom, they'll be back any day now.
She timed it out.
Maybe it's us.
She was on there from the start when she married. 20 minutes is up.
Yeah, I put an hour and a half off on this.
You got an hour and a half.
Okay, well, it might be at the end then. We're so close.
She was on a roll.
Never lost a Zoom connection like Zoom. I'm sure we have an internet connection.
Well, we were pretty close to the end of this.
Yeah, so the big thing here is conversation.
I thought about doing it at church, so lady recently decided. Don't give up on it. It would look like iced tea, maybe.
Kelly, can you hear us now? She's called in, so she can.
Mary, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, you're back.
I am so sorry, my phone went out. I apologize.
Quite all right. So we're going to catch up where we were with our finalizing our specific mitigation strategies for the towns. We'll move on to the next steps and where we are. In the
Yes. So where I was, before I was dropped, was that the strategies are not a requirement. It is not to suggest that because they're in the mitigation strategies that a locality is committing to achieving everything that's within these strategies. So that's very important. We also, again, the town identified 15 strategies. But you can see, let's see, next slide.
Kelly, we're picking you up twice on the audio. Can you see us? Can you see us?
Yes.
Okay. Kind of hear you. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. So again, you see this, the strategies there. And next slide, and as you sort of move through those slides, Mary, you can see the 15 strategies. And what I've highlighted in green there is a very specific strategy: evaluate and execute necessary improvements to harden, retrofit, and elevate and move the town's electric substations. So that sort of shows you we got very specific into those property protection and those strategies that are very unique to the town. Those information and outreach strategies are pretty general, and that's a good thing, so that we can capture those easy, low-hanging strategies. Next slide. And if we're, Mary, we should see where we're at the approval process. So what you have there is the approval process where we submitted the plan to VDM in October of 2020. We had this is where I was saying we had a third public process. We just felt like with COVID that we needed to do a due diligence and have an extra comment period, which we did have between October and November of 2020. The draft was submitted to FEMA in December of 2020, and FEMA, we had a review meeting in December, and FEMA awarded approval pending adoption on January 22nd, 2021. And now we're working through the approval process of the localities. As Mary mentioned, this is a 5-year document. And the way the document works, from the time that FEMA provided its approval pending adoption, the first locality that adopts the plan flips the switch to counting down those 5 years. So the town of Appomattox adopted on February 8th. And so February 9th was 4 years, 364 days of counting down to this plan for the regional adoption process. And so again, it's through February 2026. And then next slide, and I'm here to answer any questions. And again, I truly apologize for the technology kerfluffle there. If there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Hitchcock? I think you kind of answered it. One of my questions was the electric utility was obviously included in this hazard mitigation plan, and I think she answered that, so that was Bruce?
Is there going to be a cost on our part for this plan?
No. Mary says no. Any other questions?
I do want to point out early on, each locality did quite some time provide a match that went into developing the plan, but as far as overseeing the plan and any of those type activities, no, there was no additional plan.
Right, unless we, at some point in the next 5 years, decide to tackle some of those things that maybe are mentioned in the plan as mitigation, but that would be down the road or whatever.
Correct.
Any other questions for Ms. Hitchcock? Thank you very much for presenting the plan to us this evening. At this time, we'll move to the resolution, adoption of the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Should we read the resolution or? Sure. Would you?
Resolution authorizing the adoption of the Central Virginia Planning District Commission Hazard Mitigation Plan 2020 update. Whereas the town of Bedford and the entire Central Virginia Planning District region have exposure to natural hazards that can affect the safety to life, property, businesses, and local economy. And whereas proactive mitigation or actions before a disaster even can lessen or eliminate long-term risk and impacts of hazards to life and property. And whereas the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, Public Law 93-228 is amended, Title 44 of the Code of Federal Regulations as amended by the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, Public Law 106-390, requires development of a pre-disaster mitigation plan as a requirement for eligibility for federal pre- and post-disaster hazard mitigation funding. And whereas the Central Virginia Planning District Hazard Mitigation Technical Advisory Committee, comprised of a coalition of local, regional, state, business, and citizen stakeholders that included dedicated town of Bedford representation and representation of each of the 10 Central Virginia Planning District localities, led a pre-disaster planning process according to FEMA regulations. And whereas the planning team completed a planning process that engaged the public, assessed the risk and vulnerability to the impacts of natural hazards, developed mitigation strategies consistent with a set of uniform goals and objectives, and includes an evaluation, maintenance, and revision process. And whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency has reviewed and on January 22nd, 2021, approved pending adoption was granted to the Central Virginia Planning District Commission Hazard Mitigation Plan 2020 update. Now therefore be it resolved by the Bedford Town Council that the Central Virginia Planning District Commission Hazard Mitigation Plan 2020 update is hereby approved and adopted for the town of Bedford.
Do we have a motion to?
I move that we adopt the regional hazard mitigation plan.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mr.
Oh,
Hartwick?
I'm sorry.
Question.
We got a question.
Just a question, she's talking about it's good up to February 2026. Was that based on Appomattox when they filed in February?
Correct. That was the triggering event.
So no matter what we do now, it'll still be based on a 4-year, 364-day period, correct? I just want to
Yes.
make sure.
And we do have some plans for at least one FEMA grant within town currently. So
Okay,
we expect to participate within that time.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, roll call.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
All right.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 6 ayes.
All right, the next item is the Section 125 Flexible Benefit Plan, the resolution for that.
Thank you, Mayor Black. I'll attempt to summarize. Due to a change in internal revenue code related to one of our cafeteria plan benefits for employees, there have been some specific changes in election rules for our Section 125 Flexible Benefits Plan. The new election rules for new hires will be as follows. Medical coverage for new hires will start the first of the month after date of hire. The number of days in new hire waiting period will be 0. The number of days allowed to make the enrollment election request will be 30. The other change relates to qualifying mid-year events. 60 days will be allowed to make the election change requests. Coverage would start the first of the month following the receipt of the completed enrollment form or after the event, whichever is the later date. Council is requested to adopt the attached resolution for the administration of the flexible benefit plan, and I will now read that resolution if you need me to.
We don't need, we'll pass on the reading of that resolution.
Thank you very much.
Sure, it would have been thrilling.
Yes.
All right, any questions or, do we have a motion
So
to
moved.
adopt the Section 125 Flexible?
I'm sorry, forgive me that. I make a motion that we adopt the Section 125 plan resolution for administration of the town of Bedford flexible benefits plan.
Do we have-
Second.
Second, okay. Any other discussion or questions?
I just want to make sure I understand, the change is for a new hire, the medical coverage will not start till the first of the following month. Okay, okay, all right.
And does it currently start now as the date of hire, or is it?
It does, there's some flexibility within the
Yeah.
first 15 days now, but this resolves that election.
Yeah,
Right, right.
I'm done, yeah, thanks.
Okay. All right, roll call.
Mr. Johansson? Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley? Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 6 ayes.
All right, and then I just need to get, which code section do you want to do this? Personnel or?
Personnel.
Do you want
Okay.
to look at that to see?
Let me see.
These are all
both,
listed
really.
here, but there's,
We need, yeah, we could do personnel, and what was the other?
You could go litigation, legal, but we'll go personnel. I'm going to move for closed section under section 2.2-3711, A1, to address a matter regarding personnel procurement issues that recently arose regarding procurement issues.
So moved.
All right, do we need a second?
just a second.
All right, and roll call.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson? Mayor Black?
Aye. And I think we just need Barton, maybe Will, just in case we got any legal questions there.
Yes.
were discussed in the closed meeting, to which the certification resolution applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the council.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
One thing real quick, with the budget retreat being canceled this past Saturday, we need to pick another day. And I know April the 10th is not a good day because we've got a couple department heads that have, and when that, the Saturday, and that's fine. So I'm thinking right now, we got an option April 3rd, which would not be this Saturday, but the following Saturday, or April the 17th. I don't know if we need to go much further than that. Any preference, or
17th.
17? 17?
17.
So,
All right. He's going to go to the beach.
when can we have it down there at your place?
I'd rather spend it here with you on it.
They do 17th work for you?
Yeah, it's fine, but I mean, I'm flexible either way.
But if it doesn't work for others, I can.
All right. 17th, Bart, do you think that'll work for
I'll be
everybody?
here anytime you want me. So
All right. Okay, so we're gonna,
that's good, we don't have to, we can.
and we don't have to adjourn this meeting to that because it's
Right.
past, so we're just adjourning this meeting and then we'll, okay. So the 17th at 9 o'clock, and we're doing it here, right, or we're still doing it here? Okay. And we'll have breakfast at 8:30, so come get,
You frying the eggs?
no. All right, so if nothing else, we'll move to adjourn the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Done by 1 o'clock?